Fox News, your election headquarters. New fallout less than 48 hours after President Obama said the private sector is doing fine. That's a quote. A comment that's drawing some sharp criticism and putting Team Obama on the defensive. Peter Ducey following that for us in Washington. Hi, Peter. Good morning.
Good morning, Jamie. So Friday morning, President Obama said the private sector is doing fine. And Friday afternoon, he came out to clarify that the economy is not doing fine because he says there are too many people out of work and the housing market is still weak. But despite the clarification, the Romney campaign just put out a powerful new ad that features Americans who are hurting.
I just lost my job recently. I have to work part-time in order to make ends meet.
Sometimes I feel like I'm a failure.
The private sector is doing fine. The private sector is doing fine. The private sector is doing fine.
While responding to the president's original comments, Mitt Romney said Mr. Obama wants to hire more government workers, more firemen, more policemen, more teachers, but that the message of Tuesday's election in Wisconsin is that Americans want to cut back on government. And that's what the Obama campaign's senior strategist, David Axelrod, jumped on this morning, while also saying that the private sector is certainly doing better than the public sector.
He said, we don't need any more teachers. We don't need any more teachers. 250,000 teachers have lost their jobs in the last couple of years. That is dramatically bad news for the country. It's certainly not good news for our future. What planet is he living on where he thinks that we can take these kind of hits in our education system and progress as a country?
Well, Republican Senator John McCain responded directly to Mr. Axelrod a few minutes later on CNN, saying that he doesn't know what planet the president is living on. Jamie?
Peter Ducey live in Washington. Peter, have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Well, as President Obama continues to face a bit of a rough patch over these comments and the ongoing investigation into the intelligence leaks, there are some new concerns this week dealing with the re-election. Let's take a look at the latest Fox News poll that shows that if the election were held now, the president would be neck and neck with Governor Mitt Romney. That's a noticeable drop for Mr. Obama when compared to just last month. Well, when asked who would do better on the economy, Governor Romney, as you can see, has the edge. But the president fares better in matters of national security and foreign policy, with the majority of respondents saying that they prefer the president over Governor Romney on those issues. So what are we to make of this, and what can break the log jam in the polls? Ron Bonjean is a former communications director for the former Republican House Speaker Dennis Hastert, and Debbie Dingell, member of the Democratic National Committee and a former chair of Vice President Al Gore's 2000 campaign, and Michigan native. Debbie and Ron, welcome. Ron, let me start with you. I mean, it's neck and neck. All these polls are just like this. What do you think will finally tip the balance to one candidate or the other?
Well, it's the economy. This is going to be an economic election. It's going to be about jobs. It's going to be about whether or not people feel like they are better off than they were 4 years ago. And clearly many people don't think they are, and that, clearly President Obama made a mistake by saying the economy is doing just fine. When you look at the polls, they're tied up. There's about 10% undecided, and they're going after those folks. And Obama cannot afford these type of gaffes. This is a referendum. This is turning into a referendum on Obama and his stewardship of the economy. And that's why he started trying to shift the game towards public sector workers, because he has no explanation for how to grow the private sector.
Debbie,
and David Axelrod this morning still couldn't explain it.
Debbie, you think that's true, that there's no explanation for the private sector?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with Ron that it's going to be about the economy and it's going to be about jobs. The president did not say that the economy is okay. He probably wishes that he didn't make that comment that he made, that the private sector is doing okay. He made it very clear later in the day the economy is not okay. What he is the private sector has grown by 4.3 million jobs. It is not enough, but it is going in the right direction. The point that he's trying to make is, you saw what he did in the auto industry. You've seen what he's done in other target areas of the business community. They've had to become efficient. They've had to make changes. We've got to continue in that way. You see a lot of struggling at the state and local level because people are having to reduce budgets. We're laying off policemen. We're laying off teachers. At a critical, we need that security in the local communities. We need people teaching our kids. And that's what he is trying to do, put an economic incentive into the economy, help at the local area while why they're making the same kind of tough decisions that have to be made. This president agrees that we've got to reduce government spending, but he's trying to do it in a targeted way that helps the economy.
Well, Ron, do you think that economic incentive that Debbie talks about will help the economy?
Well, first, I have to say, when you're the president, you have a tough time explaining the economy, and you're getting in these type of verbal quicksand. That's a really bad thing. Voters want to hear a president who is very clear and concise, who can present a plan. I think that's extremely important. And, there are over 20 million people that are still unemployed. Many of those want to be in all kinds of professions, and to focus on teachers and firefighters, yes, that is important. And jobs, should be created for them. They need to find those jobs. However, throwing more federal money at the problem is not the answer. Or else, I think I heard it earlier, Greece right now would be a phenomenal country.
Well, you talk about Greece and Spain. They're having discussions this weekend. The president is trying to have them get their house into order. What happens from tomorrow morning when the Dow Jones opens up, Debbie, and, you got all these uncertainties in Greece that could cascade into our country and our economy?
The president has been very clear that he's worried about what the impact could be of Europe. The fact of the matter is both Mitt Romney and the president have said things that can be taken out of context. I think the American people are tired of the partisan bickering, and that they want to see Republicans and Democrats come together and try to solve these problems.
But that's not happening. On both sides blame each other.
That is absolutely correct, and people want to stop it. And that in November, people are going to vote for the candidate that they think is going to help them on their job. I think it's going to be a competitive race. I've said that from the beginning. I've seen Mitt Romney make worse gaffes than what President Obama has been. What the people want is to see somebody who's going to lead this country and create jobs and give them job security. I think in the end they're going to trust President Barack Obama. I mean, if you look at what Mitt Romney did, he was 47 out of 50 when he was governor of Massachusetts in terms of job creation. They're tired of bickering, so we'll see what happens between now and November.
But Debbie, some would say they all voted for hope and change, and 3 years later you got even worse. I mean, you got the bickering that you say, you got the gridlock that you say, and the president has been the president and it hasn't helped.
I think that I would disagree with you that he hasn't helped, but he's got to show people he's going to bring people together, and I think that's a challenge for him. I think he's got to work, both the Congress and the president have got to say to the American people, we're going to work together.
All right, Ron, what about the last word, Debbie's endorsement of the president that he is the answer in November? Well,
clearly this is a referendum on the economy. People are not happy with it. They are not happy that do not feel like they're better off now than they were back 4 years ago. And I think Obama's having a tough time explaining it. They're trying to figure out anything to make it stick, so they went to the public sector because they cannot get themselves out of the jam. This is a referendum on Obama's stewardship over the economy in the country, and he's likely to lose this November against Romney. But it is going to be very, very close.
All right,
no doubt about it.
Debbie, last word, your prediction for the election?
Well, I think President Barack Obama is going to win because I think he has. I disagree with you that they don't think that they're better off. They're scared. The American people are scared about whether the economy is going to go in the right direction. They remember what got us into the greatest economic crisis since the Great Depression, and they don't want to go back to those policies. But they're looking at both. They're looking at Republicans and Democrats and saying, I don't know who to blame. I want my job to be secure.
Well, you speak for all Americans, I think, no matter what your party, when you say that. Debbie Dingell and Ron Bonjean, thanks so much for both of you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jamie?
Plenty of folks out there are worried about keeping their homes. Home ownership, is it still the American dream?